Parliamentary elections, usually a battle between parties or candidates. But with the upcoming vote in Hungary, things are not that simple. The choice is for the country's future and its geopolitical self-identification. Is it with NATO and the EU, or is it looking eastwards? And yes, it's also all about Ukraine. And while Hungary is yet to make its choice, some seem to be willing to have a hand on it.
The situation is clear. There is ongoing coordination between the Hungarian left and the Ukrainians. If the Hungarian left were to take over the government, they would immediately begin arms shipments and they would immediately vote in favour of sanctions on oil and gas shipments.
All those accused denied the claim, but it shows just how heated things ahead of the vote are and how the Ukrainian question overshadows it all. So who is on Hungary's candidate list? The front-runner, leading by a small margin, is sitting President Viktor Orban, leader of the ruling party that has been in power for 12 years. Dubbed an autocrat and a 21st-century dictator by the West, Orban has long been a thorn in the EU's side. Add to this his conservative, pro-family, anti-LGBT and anti-migrant values. But what's even more crucial, Ukraine. Orban's neutral line was seen by some as coziness with Putin. Although he joined EU sanctions, he refused to ban Russian gas imports or send arms to Kiev.
Do you hesitate whether to impose sanctions or not? Do you hesitate whether to let weapons through or not? Do you hesitate whether to trade with Russia or not? There is no time to hesitate. It's time to decide already.
The war of words has now gone further, with Ukraine's deputy prime minister suggesting that Budapest itself wants a chunk of Ukrainian territory.
Hungary does not support the sanctions. They don't provide weapons. They don't allow transit of weapon supplies from other countries. They say no to practically everything. Before long, Budapest's official rhetoric will be openly pro-Russian. What is this all about? Do they want some cheap Russian gas? Or, maybe, they want our Zakopeta region.
But nothing seemed to scare Orban. He remained firm.
We're giving the Ukrainians everything we can, perhaps even beyond our capacity. But we will not comply with any demands of theirs which would destroy our national community, either in a biological sense, with our sons dying in someone else's war, or with the ruination of Hungary's economy.
Facing Orban is a group of 6 opposition parties and their candidate, whose loyalties are clear.
We strongly belong to the West, we belong to NATO, belong to the EU.
But Orban offers to choose not sides, not groups, but between war and peace. And his message seems to be resonating with voters, according to polls.
The war has cast a shadow over the whole Hungarian election campaign. The question of peace and security is now also part of what's at stake in the election. And our message is clear. Only the Fidesz party can create peace in Hungary, only we can guarantee the security of the Hungarian people.
Splitting sharply from NATO allies and not waving a Ukrainian flag in solidarity might cost other European leaders an election. But it seems not Orban. On the opposite, his policy of Hungary first could take him to victory, which might make Europe even more nervous and more divided than now.
This is a referendum of a decision whether the direction of Hungary will go eastwards or eastwards and European, or just European American. If Hungary changes the government, Europe will entirely close the door eastwards and will be isolated and will suffer an economic downturn, which will eventually break up entire Europe. If Orban keeps in place, we still have a door open to the east, and Europe will have a slight chance to reopen the relationships towards Russia, China, and all the other countries eastwards. So this is, I think, even essential for Europe that Orban will stay in power.